Earlier today, I was watching a video on social media about how children act when they're not given a lot of love at home, when they're not giving love while they're growing up, how they focus more on survival instead of learning. That's the children that don't get enough love from home. And it was of a mother with her child at first, and then she showed this video of an experiment that was carried out with children and building blocks, and then the caption was what informed me that this experiment was about how children act when they are given love and when they're not. And so, while looking at this, I had this thought: this video could be from anywhere. Right? That's number one. And secondly, whether or not children act in a certain way, whether or not they are reserved and decide to suck on their thumb instead of playing with the bricks, is not exactly denotive of whether or not they got love, they get love at home. It could just be because that child is a Velcro child and their parents are not around. There's a lot more behind the scene that we are not seeing about this experiment. I didn't see a link. I didn't see a title for the name of the experiment. I didn't see anything that would give me more information as to when this experiment was conducted, what other factors were cancelled out in order to arrive at that conclusion. It was simply a video and a caption. And so it brought me to think about news literacy and social media literacy and how much we take at face value the things that we see on social media. So there's a lot of things happening on social media. There are a lot of people who are doctors. There are a lot of people who are experts in their field that come out and they give us advice on various things. But most often than not, a lot of people that come out to talk about things are simply confident, and so they are easy to believe. There's a lot of things out there online that they may be true. The opinions that they share may align with yours to some extent, and you may agree with that. But the basis through which they are presenting these facts that you will use later to justify your claims in whatever arguments you're having about that particular topic are simply false. Most of these things, the sources of their information, their facts, they are not true. And so when I look at these things, I think it's very nice, it's very important to constantly urge and remind people that most of what we see on social media needs extra verification, and you can't take everything at face value. It is nice to have original thoughts of your own. It is nice to have ideas and opinions that you agree with. But if you see a piece of information and you know for a fact that there is no way you can properly verify that this piece of information was connected to whatever news or opinion the owner of the post is making, if these two things could be separate, you need to consider whether the piece of information being presented and the opinion being attached to that information, whether or not it's valid, whether or not it's verifiable, right? And so when I think about this, I want to bring it over to the Nigerian context. There's something that we Nigerians like to praise whenever we see videos online of people being, this is Nigeria, and they're showing it to foreigners, and foreigners are like, wow. But really, it's only videos of like 3 cities in Nigeria, 3 or 4 maybe cities in Nigeria, and it's of the hub of activities, where the hub of these activities are happening. And it's usually largely Lagos or Abuja that we see these videos come from, and you see all the sky-high buildings and clean roads and, artistic or some things with a bit of cultural depth. And we are like, oh yes, this is Nigeria, this is our Nigeria. But Nigeria has 36 states. Each of those 36 states have 36 capital cities. Nigeria has 774 local governments. In those 774 local governments, there has to be at least 1 town, 1 city, right? So we are only looking at 3 or 4 highest when we reveal what we term Nigeria to some of these people, but that is not Nigeria, right? It's nice to think that, my country is at a good place where we have some of these nice buildings and we have a bit of the country looks good and it looks like we are surviving. But that's only a select few places where only a select few number of Nigerians can afford and access. That is not the Nigerian reality. It is simply a subsection of Nigeria. Take, for example, Nigerian debt is in the trillions, right? It's in the trillions. But do you know that one of the most stable and one of the things that has stayed stable and is actually invested against inflation here in Nigeria is pensions, right? Pensions get up to 30 trillion naira as of, I think last year. Pensions were up to 30 trillion naira. That's a lot of money. It's a lot, right? But do you know that it's only about 78% of Nigeria's entire workforce that is benefiting from that 30 trillion naira that is being saved for pensions, or rather being invested in pensions? It is not the Nigerian reality. And so I'd like us to, more than, yes, it's a good thing. I think it's always good to be hopeful. It is always good to be hopeful. But let us not deny ourselves of the truth of certain situations, of certain things that we see. We say, yes, the Nigeria with clean roads is good. I mean, if you go outside of my streets, go this way, you see nice flyovers and you see pretty good buildings. But most of these buildings, most of these facilities, most of these roads are inaccessible to a lot of Nigerians. And so I think it's what we should do, rather, what I would recommend anyway, is that we look at these things. Don't take them for face value granted. Do not do that. But understand that it is not our reality. It is not something that we should look at and be like, oh, Nigeria is doing fine. Let me take a break for a moment. It is not. We should look at these things and be like, I want the rest of Nigeria to be this way. I want to be able to walk out on the streets and see that, okay, maybe they are doing work on this particular road or they are doing work on this road. Because what it does is create this illusion of progress that is not really happening. It simply isn't happening, right? I remember there was a time when I consumed a lot of that content about Nigeria going to a better place. And it kind of put in this hope in me that, yes, we are indeed getting better. But then I switched environments and I got to understand that. And I, got read about news and updates on certain development things and all of that that's happening in some states. And you find out that a lot of promises have been made since as far as 2013. If you read these policies, if you read the plan, if you read the 12-step this or 21-step that, you read project this or project that, they sound very good. But to this day, they haven't been put in place. A lot of Nigerian policies seem really good on paper, but to this day have not been put in place. And so we need to discard the illusion of growth, the illusion of change, and properly hold ourselves accountable. Look, the fact that this street or the fact that a social place in Lagos or Abuja or PH or Delta or Edo or wherever you're from looks good doesn't mean that the rest of Nigeria looks like that. And usually those places that look good serve to benefit only a small few. Should I use that term? I don't know if that term would go, but it only benefits a small group of people. And so this illusion that is being created, passed around, both on social media and sometimes in real life, we need to be able to recognize some of these things for what they are. Makeup. Yeah, makeup. When you wipe the makeup, you see that Nigeria has a lot of pimples, right? We need to go to the dermatologist and get our pimples treated. So that's what today's video is about. I just saw it, I had the thought, and I had to say it. So I'll leave you with this thought. More than looking at things and taking them for face value, more than being happy about a certain kind of progress in a certain kind of area, more than taking a truth that you see on social media or an opinion, more than doing that, right? Investigate. Let's not say investigate because not everybody has that time. Look at it from a point of view of restriction. Seclude it to that particular context and this person's experiences, what this person has experienced. Understand that most often than not, it is not the experience of everyone. It is not even the experience of like 20%. So yeah, let's be careful with what we consume and let's learn to hold ourselves accountable in terms of what we think of is growth and what we want to put out into the world as progress when sometimes it really isn't. There, I said it. See you on the next one.